Hello, everyone. I want to take this opportunity to welcome you to the 2022 Keller Lectureship series. Thank you all for coming to Cincinnati and being with us here today. My name is Vincent DiNapoli. I'm a neurosurgeon, skull-based neurosurgeon here at Mayfield Clinic. I want to also take a moment to thank our sponsors for putting this event together for us, specifically Sonia Lip, who is our director here at the center, as well as Tanya Hines, who is our wonderful illustrator, and Jake Andriadis, who works with Surgical One, did a tremendous amount of work to put together our dissection lab for us. So we want to appreciate that work. So the person we're here to honor today is Dr. Jeffrey Keller. I think he's known throughout the community in neurosurgery pretty much worldwide. We know him and love him here in Cincinnati as a mentor and a colleague. All of us who did our residency here in Cincinnati got to spend a lot of time with Jeff during our residency. It was really an integral part of our training, both from a neuroanatomic standpoint, but also as a mentor. Jeff began his career in 1975 as a research professor of neurosurgery and anatomy, cell biology at the University of Cincinnati in the Mayfield Clinic. He has trained countless surgeons, fellows, residents, medical students in applied neuroanatomy. His extensive investigations and laboratory dissections are infused with a deep appreciation for the historical traditions of neuroanatomy. As an educator, his collaborations with colleagues are innovative and worldwide, translating the intricacies of brain into practical application has ultimately refined all of our operative techniques. And I think most of us here today have integrated or used much of what Jeff has taught us and what we do in the operating room every day. So I want to welcome Dr. Keller to the podium for some brief remarks in just a second. I'll go through his educational background as well. He's received his undergraduate career at the University of Cincinnati and then studied under the tutelage of Malcolm Carpenter as an NIH postdoctoral fellow in the Uniform Services University Health Sciences in Bethesda from 1978 to 1980. In his 43 years in neurosurgery, he's published more than 100 peer-reviewed publications, 20 book chapters, and 61 abstracts, and co-authored the Atlas of Operative Techniques with Dr. Van Loveren and Dr. Chu in 2001, and still remains one of the best atlases that we all have at our disposal in armamentarium for skull-based surgery. Today, Dr. Keller continues to direct his energy in research and education of the UC residents here in Cincinnati and advancing neurosurgery. So I want to welcome Dr. Keller to the podium to give us some brief remarks, and we'll get started with our lectures.
Thank you, Vince. I am humbled and honored to be at the podium today. It surprises me, even weeks, months after achieving some level of success. But here I am, and I want to just give you a few remarks. And the first one deals with Dr. Oscar Batson, who was at the University of Cincinnati in 1921 to 1933. I was not there at that time, and it's only later that I met Dr. Batson. Dr. Batson was world-renowned for Batson's venous plexus, which I did not know much about when I first came to Cincinnati. Dr. Mayfield brought it to my attention and asked me to look into this matter further, which meant I had to do some work. As I looked into it, I discovered that Batson was, as I said, a professor at the University of Cincinnati. And subsequently, he mentored many students. One of them was actually a dental student, because there was a school of dentistry at the University of Cincinnati at that time. And he mentored one of the students, Frederick Deutschli, who turns out was my orthodontist when I was in high school in Cincinnati. So when Dr. Mayfield asked me to talk about Dr. Batson and his scientific work, I had to start looking it up, and I got the connection between my dentist and the dental student that Batson mentored. And I called Dr. Batson, and fortuitously, he agreed to come to Cincinnati to see his old friend and colleague, Frederick Deutschli, and ultimately to help me out. When he arrived with his wife driving. She was 83 years old. He was 82 years old. And their sole purpose, other than seeing Dr. Deutschli, was to meet me. And I had set up a grand rounds with Dr. Mayfield and Dr. Batson. At the time, after the lectureship, after the lecture, Batson and I discussed what we had presented, and then he presented me with this cast of the cavernous sinus. And Batson invented a plastic injection system to create that cast, and he handed it to me. And that was 45 years ago. And here it is. I still have it in the same jar that he gave it to me in. And I have to pass it on somehow, or else it's going to get lost. And it's a little piece of history. But it really helped me, because 40 years later, I'm still looking at it and working with it. From the cast, we started to pay attention to the floor of the middle cranial fossa and the system, the venous system in that area. And what you see on the left is a cast of that. The same cast that was given to me was served as the basis for this drawing, which was demonstrating a technique called the DeLenz technique for cavernous sinus surgery. So all of a sudden, here we are catapulted into a whole new arena in skull-base surgery, and it was, again, just fortuitous that we had these objects. And from that, Dr. Van Loveren, who's a neurosurgeon, started doing cavernous sinus surgery based on some of our work, and certainly it proved to be advantageous for all of us, and it's still functioning today, so to speak. And then the last thing I would say with the tincture of humility is that we also looked at the internal carotid artery, which is a major artery associated with the cavernous sinus. But this time we were talking about its segmentation, how to discern different parts. And we created a system of 7 segments that showed or provided a classification model for examining the internal carotid artery. And that has proved even more successful, that it is used throughout the United States and Europe, and remains of value. That said, lots of other people continue to look at segmentation, so we're still in the race. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Keller, for that. Obviously, great to be with you here today. The lectureship for the Keller Lectureship in Surgical Neuroanatomy and Research was established in 2012 in Dr. Keller's honor to foster and promote surgical neuroanatomy as well as research, bringing unrecognized leaders and contributors to the University of Cincinnati and the Mayfield Clinic. It's an endowment started with generous donations from the Mayfield Society colleagues as well as friends of Mayfield Clinic. And as you can see there on the screen, we've had a number of distinguished and well-known neurosurgeons here to Cincinnati to give us wonderful lectures over the years. It's included, some of the, I would say, gods of neurosurgery, especially in skull base. Some of the founding fathers of our discipline. Last year was Dr. William Caldwell. And for 2022, we'd like to welcome Dr. Jim Liu from the University of New Jersey, Rutgers. He is our 2022 Keller Lecturer. So Dr. Liu is a professor of neurological surgery, as I said, at the University of New Jersey, Rutgers, and RWJ Barnabas Health. He is the director of the cerebrovascular skull base and pituitary surgery program in the Department of Neurosurgery there. Dr. Liu is a leader, I think, in the next generation of skull-based surgeons, and I think that is part of the transition we're seeing here in the Keller Lectureship, of welcoming in the new generation of skull-based surgeons. And I think he definitely fits the bill for that. So I really am pleasure to have you here with us, and we're excited to hear your lectures and everything you have to teach us this weekend.